Hi, welcome to this video lecture accompanying Unit 8 of our program on accessing human rights. In this session, we will take a brief overview of women's rights to own property in India. Property can be gained in a number of ways. First, of course, is property that people acquire through their own labor. Property can also be inherited. In India, the laws of succession are not contained in one unified code. This means there is no single law applicable to all. The Indian woman's right to claim property through succession is largely determined by her religion, her marital status, and other similar factors. The Hindu Succession Act 1956. This law applies to all Hindus and people professing the Jain, Buddhist, and Sikh faith. The Muslim Personal Law Shariat Application Act of 1937. This law applies to Muslims. And the Indian Succession Act of 1925, which applies to the people of all other faiths such as Christians, Jews, Parsis, and persons married under the Special Marriage Act of 1954. Now that you know that inheritance is one method of owning property, let us study the relevance of such laws on women's right to property. Property can be inherited either through testamentary or intestate succession. On the death of a person, if the property left behind has been mentioned in a valid will, then the devolution of such property is called testamentary succession and is governed by the Succession Act. Where there is no will left by the deceased, the devolution of such property is called intestate succession. Intestate property devolves upon heirs by the laws of succession under personal laws. Let us now take a quick look at some personal laws to better understand how they affect a woman's right to inherited property. We'll begin with the Hindu laws. According to Hindu law, on the death of a Hindu male, his property devolves upon his mother and widow, along with his children by testamentary or intestate succession. Section 8A of the Hindu Succession Act provides that if a Hindu man dies intestate, his share of the joint family property is divided among his Class 1 heirs. The females included in this category are his widow, his daughters, mother, widowed daughter-in-law, and great-daughter. In case there is no Class 1 heir living, then the property shall devolve upon his Class 2 heirs. Please note that all heirs are granted an equal share of the property simultaneously along with any other persons of the same class. As you are familiar with the concept of Stridhan, you will remember that a Hindu woman owns all her properties as an absolute owner. You will remember that after the amendment of the Hindu Succession Act of 2005, she is now a co-parsoner of the joint Hindu family as well. The concept of joint family property is unique to Hindus, and the other religions follow other methods of succession. For instance, there is no codified law for Muslims for the devolution of property in India. But the Shariat Application Act states that family and succession disputes between Muslims are to be decided according to the principles of Sharia law as derived directly from the Quran. Under Sharia law, men and women hold the equal right to inherit, but a Muslim woman inherits half the quantity of shares that the man inherits. For example, if a father has a son and a daughter, upon his death, his daughter will get a share of his property as her right, but that share will be half the amount that her brother will receive. While this may appear to be an inequitable rule for female heirs, it is important to realize that the female does have a claimable right to inherit property. One justification for a woman inheriting only half the share as that of a man is because according to Muslim law, generally the man alone is responsible for the maintenance of his children. Another way a Muslim woman gains property is during the time of her wedding. Every Muslim woman is promised what is known as her meher or dower. This is an agreed gift promised by the husband and his family during the time of the marriage. It could be anything agreed upon, such as a cash amount, jewelry, a house, or any other property of value. Meher becomes a Muslim woman's absolute property and is highly regarded as it is supposed to help her if she is ever in need. Another protective aspect of the Sharia law is that in the interest of his dependents, a Muslim man can only will his properties up to a maximum of 1/3. The remainder must be left for his heirs. The Succession Act applies to people of all the other faiths. This includes Christians, Jews, Parsis, and persons who contract marriages under the Special Marriage Act of 1954. Chapter 2 of the Succession Act applies to those who are not Parsis. This includes Christians, Jews, and other persons to whom the law applies. Under the Succession Act, when a man dies intestate, the devolution of his properties will be amongst his widow and lineal descendants, which are his children, parents, grandparents, and grandchildren. If the intestate is survived by his widow and other lineal descendants, then the widow shall receive 1/3 of the total amount of property. When there are no lineal descendants, then she takes half of the property. But where there are no kindred or relatives left, then all the property goes to the widow. The Succession Act applies special rules to devolution of property belonging to Parsi intestates under Chapter 3. The devolution of Parsi intestate property is kept very simple and without gender bias. The succession of a male intestate is same as a female intestate. Where the intestate is survived by his widow, children if any, and surviving parents, then all take equal shares in the property. If there is any child of a predeceased child, then the grandchild takes 1 share. Therefore, if there are no children and no parents, the widow receives all the property. This brings us to the end of the video lecture on the overview of women's rights to inherited property. While Hindu women can now claim their strithan and properties as coparceners, you have seen that the rights differ based on the religion of the persons involved. This is due to the continued application of personal laws. The property rights of women are not codified under one law, causing the disparity amongst the rights available to women. Thank you for watching this video. In the next unit, you will learn about the rights of children in India.